The whistleblower's gambit Dr. Marcus Holloway had always believed that the truth was worth dying for. Sitting in his cramped basement apartment in downtown Seattle, surrounded by towers of classified documents and conspiracy theories that would make even the most paranoid theorist blush, he wondered if tonight might be the night that belief would be tested. The encrypted drive had arrived 3 days ago, delivered by a courier who vanished before Marcus could ask any questions. The return address was fake. The delivery service had no record of the transaction, and the encryption was military grade. But Marcus had spent 15 years working for the Department of Extraterrestrial Affairs before his very public dismissal, and he still had friends in dark places, friends who knew how to crack impossible codes. The files that emerged from that drive changed everything. Operation Meridian, established 1973. A treaty between the United States shadow government and something called the Vanguard Collective. Marcus had seen a lot of classified material in his time, but nothing like this. The documents detailed a systematic exchange program that had been running for 50 years, human subjects in exchange for technology that had supposedly revolutionized modern life. Impossible, Marcus muttered, scrolling through page after page of clinical reports. Genetic profiles, transportation schedules, facility locations. The scope was staggering. According to the files, over 100,000 people had been relocated since the program began. Runaways, missing persons, people who wouldn't be missed. They were processed through a network of underground facilities, genetically cataloged and transported off-world to serve as subjects for Vanguard research. In return, humanity received technology that formed the backbone of the modern world: quantum computing, advanced materials science, medical breakthroughs that had extended human lifespan by decades. Even the internet itself bore traces of alien innovation. Marcus pushed back from his desk, his hands shaking. If this was real, and the documentation was too detailed, too specific to be fabricated, then every major technological advancement of the past half-century had been bought with human lives. His secure phone buzzed. Unknown number. Don't answer it, he told himself. But after a moment's hesitation, he picked up. Dr. Holloway. The voice was female, professional, with just a hint of an accent he couldn't place. I believe you've been reading some interesting bedtime stories. Marcus felt his blood run cold. Who is this? Someone who knows you received the Meridian files. Someone who also knows that Commander Reeves and his cleanup crew are currently en route to your location. Marcus glanced at his security monitors. The street appeared normal, but if the caller was right, he had maybe minutes before his apartment became a crime scene. What do you want? He asked, already grabbing his go bag from beneath the desk. To keep you alive long enough to help me. Stop what's coming next. There's a coffee shop called Grind Central 6 blocks from your apartment. Third booth from the back, you have 8 minutes. The line went dead. Marcus didn't waste time debating. He'd survived 15 years in government service by trusting his instincts, and right now they were screaming at him to run. He uploaded the Meridian files to 3 separate secure servers, grabbed his laptop and the encrypted drive, and headed for the emergency exit he'd installed when he first moved in. The Seattle rain provided perfect cover as he made his way through back alleys and side streets. Twice he spotted black SUVs that seemed to be canvassing the area, but his route avoided the main roads entirely. Grind Central was exactly the kind of place he expected. Dimly lit, filled with college students and insomniacs. The perfect cover for a clandestine meeting. He found the third booth from the back occupied by a woman who looked to be in her early 30s, with sharp features and eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. Dr. Holloway, she said as he slid into the seat across from her. You're 2 minutes late. Traffic, he replied, studying her face. There was something unsettling about her appearance, though he couldn't quite identify what. You have me at a disadvantage, Miss Zara Thorne, and we don't have time for pleasantries. She slid a tablet across the table. Look at this. The screen showed what appeared to be a shipping manifest. Dozens of entries, each with a numerical code, departure times, and a destination listed simply as Facility 7. What am I looking at? The next harvest, Zara said quietly. 3,000 people scheduled for transport tomorrow night. The largest single operation in Meridian's history. Marcus felt sick. 3,000? Refugees from the crisis zones. Officially, they're being relocated to processing centers. Unofficially, she let the sentence hang. Why are you showing me this? Why do you care? Zara was quiet for a long moment, and when she spoke again, her voice carried a weight that suggested painful personal experience. Because some of us have been fighting this war for a long time, Dr. Holloway, and we're running out of soldiers. Us? She reached across the table and touched his hand. Her skin was surprisingly warm, but there was something else. A faint tingling sensation, like a mild electrical current. There are things about the Meridian Accord that even those files don't reveal, she said. The Vanguard Collective didn't just take humans off-world. They left some of their own behind. Observers, agents, people like me. Marcus stared at her, pieces clicking into place. The unusual accent. The way she seemed to know things she shouldn't. The strange sensation when she touched him. You're one of them. Half, she corrected. My mother was human. She was part of the early exchanges. My father was Vanguard. I was born in one of their research facilities and brought back to Earth as part of a long-term observation program. And now you're working against them? Zara's smile was bitter. The Vanguard believe that humans are a resource to be managed. But living among you for 30 years changes your perspective. You become invested in the outcome. Marcus pulled his hand back, his mind racing. How do I know this isn't some elaborate setup? How do I know you're not just another part of their operation? Because, Zara said, Commander Reeves and his team just surrounded this building. Through the coffee shop's windows, Marcus could see black-clad figures taking positions. Emergency exits were being blocked. Customers near the front were being quietly evacuated. They found us quickly, Zara observed, seemingly unconcerned. Reeves is more efficient than I gave him credit for. What do we do? Marcus asked, fighting panic. Zara stood, pulling a device from her jacket that looked like a cross between a smartphone and a garage door opener. We leave, but not the way they expect. She pressed a sequence of buttons on the device. The lights in the coffee shop flickered, then went out entirely. Emergency lighting kicked in, casting everything in red shadows. MP burst, Zara explained. Localized, temporary, but it'll disable their communications and surveillance for about 10 minutes. She grabbed his arm and pulled him toward the back of the shop. Instead of heading for the obvious exit, she led him to what appeared to be a supply closet. Service tunnels, she said, opening a hidden panel in the floor. Seattle's full of them, legacy of the old Prohibition era. They dropped into darkness, Zara producing a small flashlight that cast an eerily blue glow. The tunnel was cramped but navigable, clearly maintained for regular use. Where are we going? Marcus asked as they moved through the underground passage. Somewhere. We can plan our next move. The Meridian files you received were just the beginning, Dr. Holloway. The Vanguard are accelerating their timeline, and if we don't stop them, tomorrow's harvest won't be the last. It'll be the first of many. Why now? What changed? Zara stopped walking and turned to face him, her eyes reflecting the blue light in a way that was definitely not human. Because they've learned everything they need to know about human genetics. The research phase is over. They're moving into full-scale colonization. Colonization? Earth is dying, Dr. Holloway. Climate change, resource depletion, political instability. The Vanguard have been monitoring the situation for decades, waiting for the right moment. They believe that moment has arrived. Marcus felt the weight of the revelation settling over him. They're not just taking people off-world, they're planning to take over. Not exactly, Zara said, resuming their journey through the tunnel. They're planning to save who they can and let the rest die. In their view, it's a mercy. And the people in power? Our governments? Some know, some suspect. Most are just following orders they don't understand, convinced they're serving the greater good. She paused. The technology transfers weren't just about advancing human civilization. They were about creating dependency, making sure that when the time came, resistance would be impossible. They emerged from the tunnel system into what appeared to be an abandoned warehouse. Zara led him to a corner where sophisticated computer equipment had been set up, clearly a temporary command center. "This is where we make our stand," she said, powering up the systems. "We have maybe 18 hours before the harvest begins. 18 hours to expose the truth and stop the largest human trafficking operation in history." Marcus looked around the makeshift headquarters, noting the mix of human and clearly alien technology. "What do you need me to do?" "What you do best," Zara replied, pulling up files on multiple screens. "Investigate. Verify. Prepare the story that will change everything." She turned to face him, her expression deadly serious. "But understand, Dr. Holloway, once we do this, there's no going back. The Meridian Accord will be exposed, but so will the truth about what humanity has become. Some people won't want to hear it." Marcus thought about the families of the missing, the people who had vanished without a trace, the systematic exploitation that had been hidden behind the veil of progress. "Then we make sure they can't ignore it," he said. Zara smiled, and for the first time since he'd met her, it reached her eyes. "Welcome to the Resistance, Dr. Holloway. Let's save our species." The Harvest Protocol Captain Luna Vasquez had flown over 300 missions in her 12-year military career, but nothing had prepared her for what she discovered during routine reconnaissance Flight 77 Alpha over the Nevada desert. The coordinates had seemed standard enough, a surveillance sweep of restricted airspace, cataloging any unusual activity in the region. What she found instead was a facility that officially didn't exist, crawling with activity that made her blood run cold. Through her aircraft's enhanced optics, Luna could see massive transportation vehicles moving in convoy formation toward what appeared to be underground loading bays. The vehicles were unmarked, but their design was unlike anything in the standard military inventory. Sleek, angular, with propulsion systems that generated no visible exhaust. "Control, this is Raven 77 Alpha," she radioed. "I'm seeing significant movement at coordinates 37.4 Alpha, requesting permission to investigate." The response took longer than usual. When it came, the voice was different, not her usual controller. "Raven 77 Alpha, you are ordered to maintain current altitude and continue with standard reconnaissance pattern. Do not deviate from flight plan." Luna frowned. The tone was distinctly unfriendly, almost threatening. In 12 years of service, she'd never been spoken to like that by air traffic control. "Control, I'm reading what appears to be a large-scale transport operation. These vehicles don't match any known configurations in our database." "Raven 77 Alpha, you will discontinue observation and return to base immediately. This is not a request." Luna's training kicked in. When superior officers got nervous about something a pilot observed, it usually meant that pilot had stumbled onto something classified. But the level of hostility in the controller's voice suggested this was bigger than standard black ops. She made a decision that would change her life forever. Instead of returning to base, Luna activated her aircraft's stealth mode and descended to a lower altitude, using the desert's natural terrain to mask her approach. What she saw through her enhanced surveillance equipment made her stomach turn. The underground facility was massive, easily the size of several city blocks. Loading bays were filled with what appeared to be shipping containers, but as she watched, she realized they weren't containers at all. They were transport pods, each one sized for human occupancy, and there were hundreds of them. Figures moved between the pods with mechanical efficiency, but even at this distance, Luna could tell something was wrong with their movements. Too precise, too coordinated, almost insectoid in their precision. Her communication system crackled to life, but it wasn't air traffic control. "Captain Vasquez." The voice was female, urgent. "My name is Zara Thorne. You need to listen very carefully." Luna's hand moved instinctively to her weapon. Unauthorized communication during a classified mission was grounds for court-martial, but something in the caller's tone made her hesitate. "How did you access this frequency?" "Because we've been monitoring military communications, waiting for someone to stumble onto what you found. You're looking at Facility 7, aren't you? The transport staging area." Luna's blood ran cold. Who is we? People who've been fighting this war longer than you know it exists. Captain, what you're seeing down there is the largest human trafficking operation in history, and it's being run by your own government. That's impossible. 3,000 people are scheduled for transport off-world tonight. Refugees, missing persons, people who won't be missed. They're being shipped to alien research facilities in exchange for technology that's kept this planet from destroying itself. Luna wanted to dismiss it as elaborate disinformation, but the evidence was right there below her. Hundreds of transport pods, alien technology, a massive operation hidden in plain sight. What do you want from me? Help us stop it. We have 18 hours before the harvest ships arrive. Luna made another decision that went against every protocol she'd ever learned. She landed her aircraft in a canyon 5 miles from the facility and waited. Zara Thorne arrived an hour later, accompanied by a man who introduced himself as Dr. Marcus Holloway. Up close, there was something unsettling about Zara's appearance. Her movements too fluid, her eyes reflecting light in a way that wasn't quite human. "You're not entirely human, are you?" Luna asked bluntly. Zara smiled grimly. "Half. My father was part of the Vanguard Collective, the alien coalition that's been running this operation for 50 years. And you're working against them? Some of us believe that genocide disguised as mercy is still genocide," Zara replied. "The Vanguard have convinced themselves they're saving humanity by harvesting the useful specimens and leaving the rest to die on a dying planet." Dr. Holloway stepped forward, pulling out a tablet loaded with files. "Captain, what you saw today is just one facility. There are 12 others like it across the globe. The operation has been ramping up for months, preparing for what they call the final extraction." "Final extraction?" "They're not planning to take everyone," Zara explained. "Just enough genetic diversity to maintain human breeding populations in their research colonies. Everyone else gets left behind to deal with climate collapse, resource wars, and the social breakdown they've been deliberately engineering." Luna stared at the files, seeing transport schedules, genetic profiles, facility blueprints. The scope was staggering. "How do we stop something this big?" "We expose it," Dr. Holloway said. "Force it into the open where they can't hide behind classified protocols and national security." "And how exactly do we do that?" Zara pointed toward the facility. "Tonight, when the harvest ships arrive, we broadcast everything, live feed to every major news network, every social media platform, every communication channel we can access. Make it impossible to deny or cover up." "They'll kill us." "Probably," Zara agreed. "But the information will already be out there. Once the truth is public, they can't continue the operation." Luna looked back toward the facility, weighing her options. Everything she'd been trained to believe about duty, honor, and following orders was at war with what she was seeing with her own eyes. "What do you need me to do?" The next few hours passed in a blur of preparation. Zara had equipment that was clearly beyond current human technology, surveillance devices that could penetrate the facility's security, communication scramblers that would prevent the military from interfering with their broadcast. As evening approached, they positioned themselves on a ridge overlooking the facility. Dr. Holloway set up his broadcasting equipment, while Zara monitored Vanguard communications through devices that looked like something from a science fiction movie. "They're coming," Zara announced, pointing toward the darkening sky. Luna followed her gaze and saw lights descending from the upper atmosphere. Not the familiar navigation lights of human aircraft, but something else entirely. Pulsing, organic-looking illumination that seemed to shift and flow. "Harvest ships," Zara said quietly. 3 of them. Larger than usual. The ships were massive, easily the size of aircraft carriers, but moving with impossible grace and silence. As they settled onto landing platforms that emerged from the desert, Luna realized the entire facility had been designed around this moment. "My God," she whispered. Transport pods began moving from the underground storage areas to the landing platforms. Even from their distance, Luna could see figures moving between the pods, some clearly human, others definitely not. "Those are the handlers," Zara explained. Hybrid beings like me, but bred specifically for this work. They've been conditioned to see humans as livestock. Dr. Holloway's broadcasting equipment came online, transmitting live video to servers around the world. "We're live," he announced. "Every major news network, social media platform, and government communication system just got flooded with this footage." Luna watched as the first transport pods were loaded onto the alien vessels. Each pod contained a human being, someone's child, parent, sibling, friend. People who had vanished without a trace, now revealed as victims of the most elaborate kidnapping operation in human history. Zara's communication device crackled. A voice spoke in a language Luna didn't recognize, but Zara's expression grew grim. "Nexus Prime Kethvar," she said. "The Vanguard leader responsible for the Harvest Protocol. He knows we're here. Can they stop the broadcast?" "Too late," Dr. Holloway said, monitoring his equipment. "It's already been copied and redistributed thousands of times. They can't contain it now." Through her binoculars, Luna saw movement around the facility. Security forces were mobilizing, but they seemed confused, unsure whether to continue with the operation or respond to the security breach. "What happens now?" Luna asked. Zara was quiet for a long moment, watching the chaos below. "Now we find out whether humanity is ready to face the truth about what we've become." The broadcast continued for 3 more hours, showing the world irrefutable evidence of the Harvest Protocol. Transport pods loaded with human cargo. Alien technology integrated into military systems. Hybrid beings managing human livestock with cold efficiency. By dawn, the story had exploded across every media platform on Earth. Governments scrambled to respond, some denying involvement, others claiming ignorance, a few admitting to classified programs they insisted were necessary for human survival. The harvest ships departed before the sun rose, their cargo holds only half full. The operation had been disrupted but not stopped. Luna, Zara, and Dr. Holloway sat in exhausted silence as emergency response teams surrounded the facility. Military helicopters circled overhead but seemed uncertain about their mission. "What happens to us now?" Luna asked. "We become the most wanted fugitives on the planet," Dr. Holloway replied grimly. "Or heroes, depending on how this plays out." Zara stood, looking toward the horizon where the alien ships had disappeared. "The Vanguard won't give up. They'll adapt, find new ways to continue the program. This was just the beginning." "Then we'll be ready for them," Luna said, surprising herself with her conviction. Zara smiled, and Luna saw something in her eyes that gave her hope. The recognition that humanity, despite everything, was worth fighting for. "Welcome to the real war, Captain Vasquez. The one that's been going on for 50 years, hidden behind classified files and national security protocols." Luna nodded, watching as the sun rose over a world that would never be the same. The Meridian Accord was exposed, but the battle for humanity's future was just beginning. In the distance, she could hear the sound of approaching helicopters coming, to arrest them or recruit them. She wasn't sure which would be worse. "Whatever happens next," she said, "at least now everyone knows the truth." Zara nodded grimly. "Now we find out what they're willing to do with it."